Okay, so we are at the big finale of Handmaid's Tale Season 3, Mayday. Alright, so I'm actually going to address the previously on segment of this episode because it frustrated me. They are almost admitting that they cheated on this Lawrence storyline here. In the previously moment at the funeral, they don't show the face Lawrence made to June at the end of that previous episode, which was of super suspicion about June possibly killing his wife. And the reason they don't show that clearly is because they don't address that in this episode. And a lot of problems I've had in this season is just cheats, I feel like, and this was a big one to me. It felt like last episode really had no bearing on this episode in that case between Commander Lawrence and June. It was just the elephant in the room that's not addressed. And that was really odd to me and just felt inconsistent. I feel like a big problem with this season has been inconsistencies from episode to episode. I feel like next season they must hire a man or a female in like an orange suit or something that they know who he is or she is, and they come into the room while everyone's writing and just make sure their only job is that it makes sense with how the season is going. Someone has to do a better job of that. They got lazy with that this season and it really just shows. So now jumping into the episode, we actually got a really super dark open that was a flashback to when June was first brought into Gilead. And I like this. I like that they're showing more of that. I always think it's the most interesting stuff when they show us earlier times. I wish there was more of it this season. And what was super dark about this was June's kind of first sneak peek into what Gilead's all about was when she's literally peeking through that curtain there and sees kids with Down syndrome being taken away, I'm assuming to get killed. It maybe even fed to dogs because you hear dogs barking. I'm not 100% sure, but that looks like what they were insinuating, which is super heavy. And then you see when June's walking, there's like a passing shot in the background of a couple women naked being tested by doctors. You even get a little cameo here of the handmaid Brianna, but she's got a full head of hair. We're always used to her with the bonnet on. And what was really effective about this open was it was just showing you how much June has changed, where she's come from, and Janine as well. I mean, Janine was the big aggressor before her eye was taken out. And that kind of reminded us that here, and June was kind of more the laid-back, quiet type. So it just reminds you how much Gilead has changed these women. And how bad these eyes were treating them in the beginning and that they would finally get justice towards them later on in this episode. So in present time, we get a little narration from June about ruthlessness. And that this ruthlessness in men doesn't come from God or from the people in a sense. In the end, victory goes to the hardest of hearts. To the ruthless goes the spoil. So it's kind of June reflecting that, like, yeah, these cold people just keep winning and there's no rhyme or reason to it. And there isn't this big story behind why they do it or justification. And June knows she's got to be ruthless now. It's just her mindset and how to beat out the other ruthless people. And she says, 52 kids, I will get these children to the airport because I am ruthless. So it's a nice just character progression on June's part, and they did that really well in this episode, so props for that. Now I love this just setting on the bridge here where Janine throws in the soap into June's bag and just writes, yeah, like excited. Classic Janine, and it's terrifying too because Lydia caught that and was suspicious of what was going on, especially she could just feel that air of all the handmaids that something's up. That was super terrifying. And Lydia's like, the other girls look up to you. You wouldn't want to do something that would put them in harm's way. And June's like, yeah, but this means so much because June knows this is war now and this is part of war and that these are her sisters and they're going to fight this together, and you can't even think like that anymore. And a little tidbit here too is setting up kind of for next season where Aunt Lydia's like, the next commander you have won't tolerate this nonsense. So she is going to switch commanders and we'll see where that ends up. So now back at the house, the Martha Sienna is kind of toughened up here by June, just telling her, stop waiting for someone to hold your hand or kind of give you direction. Do something. And Sienna kind of grows from this, from June being kind of like a tough boss here. Because right there, when Lawrence wants her to unwrinkle her shirt, Sienna's like, no, I need to help June. And Lawrence says, well, she's a bit prickly. And June says, maybe you have forgotten what a strong woman looks like, sir. This type of writing always gives me a little bit of an eye roll, not because of at all what they're saying. It's just that when someone writes so direct, it feels like it's bringing our IQ down a bit, not trusting the smartness of this audience that watches Handmaid's Tale, that we're already seeing that. You don't need to really write it and show it in our face. Like, yeah, just reminding the audience that he's not seeing how strong this woman is. Like, we are seeing it. Trust us here. Don't dumb it down. It kind of feels like you're writing for brownie points. Too aware of the audience in a sense. I like the little contrast here of Beth in the situation and June, because Beth's throwing up. She's nervous about dying and what they're doing today. But June's just become so tough now. This is a different woman. She's just so strong and a leader, and she knows how to keep her composure. And Lawrence mentions that Beth is afraid of death, and June's like, well, this doesn't scare me because I'm a woman of faith. Now, when she says these lines, they're not totally serious, but they kind of are too, because June has a lot of faith this episode. And that's why June is written so well in that category, because she's able to keep a realistic type of faith that she kind of grew up with in a sense, and not let Gilead's beliefs weigh her down, but it also doesn't let her totally rebel against it to not believe at all. And I think this episode did a really good job of that, especially with her doing the Bible quote at the end and the conversation she had with the little girl in this episode. So June does have faith, and she does kind of mean that in a way. So we see kind of a very subtle thing you kind of got to catch, and the reasons why she had this soap. It's kind of all just happening in the backdrop of the writing, where June's boiling the soap. She uses it to cover up the windows downstairs so they can't see into it. And she also goes outside and puts that soap onto the gate hinges to make the gate sound go away. And we also see they put this lamp in the window and cover it in red. So it's kind of the effect of like a party balloon outside of a party to signal, this is the house, everyone. But one little girl and a Martha come to the party super early, and there is some weird pacing that happens here where the music kind of kicks up for when they bring them into the house, and the Martha goes, this is it, Mayday? And this was too obvious of blocking for me, where it felt like complete GIF bait here. So people could just tweet this where, oh, it's a moment where they perfectly line up in a triangle and June's like, yeah. And it brings that suspense that was built up with the music. That's why it's weird pacing, just like this dramatic halt that just felt odd and unnatural. Felt like a reaching for a Yaz Queen tweet here. I just don't like when shows stop out of the story to do this, and so many shows are doing this now. Just trying to get some stuff going on Twitter, which I don't like. So we see up in Canada, Tuello, who's basically a robot at this point and hard to read, is talking to Serena and telling her she's still going to answer questions from whoever wants to question her. She's just given up her rights to decline that. She's like, I didn't surrender my rights, I traded them away from my daughter. But you see, Tuello really was warming up to Serena here. And he's like, yeah, these sessions can be exhausting. I can try to push some of the sessions to a further date. He also lets her know that in a week she's going to have a badge that she can exit the building. He's like, get to know the city a little. Start thinking about where you want to live. And she's like, out in the world without an escort? And he's like, I'm sure you'll find your way. Still also think he's got the hots for her here too. But I feel like here, Serena had won him over in a sense. That he was going to kind of go full in on Fred now, and kind of put in his mind, and what he kind of wanted too, is that, oh, Serena was just a product of her system. Which where Tuello will find out later on he was clearly wrong. And what was crazy about this is like, Serena was this close to getting out of there, starting the process of redemption in a sense, and having Nicole. But Fred messed that up because he reveals more to Tuello later on in this episode, which we'll get to. So there was a nice scene here where June is putting a band-aid on the girl in the basement, and she's kind of talking to her about what life is like outside of Gilead. This girl doesn't know that she was grown up in Gilead. This is all she's seen and how women are treated. And what was good about the writing here was it was with the times, where they're talking about you don't have to be a wife, you don't have to be a mother, you could just be you. And I really appreciated that. It worked in the sense of this story, and it works as a theme now, which we see so much of this agenda that's pushing women to be what the status quo is supposed to be. And I love when the show kind of tackles that and addresses that. And it's like, hey, yeah, June's totally right here. And it's sad, especially when you see a little girl who hasn't seen that option. And this was good dialogue too, because June almost reminding herself in a way of why this is all worth it. The stuff she's saying to her about being free. So Maggie the Martha now comes down and she says she's changed her mind and wants to leave now. They'll find us. I guess she didn't get the full itinerary here, and they're telling her about the midnight thing, which I thought was a little weird, because the spread of this whole operation, I thought that these Marthas that were told to bring the kids would know that the leaving time was later. Maybe not, but that just felt weird. But June isn't having any of this. She's learned her lessons. She grabs the gun upstairs, points it at Maggie, and is like, you're not leaving. If you try to run, I'll shoot you. But June smartly grabs the girl, which is more important, that Martha bails anyway. Doesn't end up shooting her, but turns around and almost shoots the girl because the girl runs outside for Maggie, and she was crying, and that's what June was worried about, that would be heard. And this is really good stuff by Elisabeth Moss, per usual. I don't have to keep saying this, you know this, but especially this scene, just everything in her face where she's like able to portray being so angry to the point about shooting that girl, but stops herself and then kind of has a realization to herself how far gone she has come to this kind of ruthlessness she was talking about, and that she almost just shot a 10-year-old girl. And which she'll say later on in the episode, and talking about it, her daughter's also 10 years old, so she knows how bizarre that is. So we get this really good scene with Commander Lawrence and June now in the dining room. And Commander Lawrence, you gotta understand, is in like full chicken mode now because they purposely show him clenching his fist. We know he's a runner and he gets scared at any point of getting caught. And he's just saying he's gonna pull the plug. It's just bring the girl back to her original home. But June here in this scene was holding her ground completely. Wasn't gonna take this BS anymore. And anytime Lawrence was trying to make a justification in his head to bring that girl back to her house, June shot it down. Always with something more like, oh, she's still gonna get her clit removed even if she has a commander as a father, if she falls in love. It's that whole thing where she was just making him face the music again. And he's like, well, the universe doesn't have a balance, because June brings up everyone who's died, Mrs. Lawrence, Francis off Matthew, all kind of on her watch. But she's like, yes, the universe does have a balance. So this goes back to that faith thing I was talking about, where she's having faith in just better days here still, and that there has got to be some karma and justice out there. A reason for everything she's done, the people that have died on her watch. And I love she's like, I've made my decision. It's not your decision. You are not in charge. I am. So go to your office and find me a map. And he's like, this is still in my house. And he snaps. But she's like, you really think this is still your house? Really awesome. It's just a nice payoff there to finally see June like in full control now in a situation. I really loved it. This was a really good scene to me. However, I'm not going to forget though that cheat in my head where we didn't address the Miss Lawrence death well. With Commander Lawrence, feels like a different dude from the end of last episode. Again, inconsistency. Now, back in Canada, this was my favorite written scene of the episode. Very layered writing, which meant a lot. Because we see Fred in questioning, right? And these women are questioning him. And you see Tulello comes in now at the end of this questioning. And Fred's like, have you worked with Miz and Murray before? Talking about the woman. And he's hinting at not taking them seriously and not liking them. And Tulello's like, is there a problem with them? And Fred reluctantly is like, I find them very smart, thorough. Kind of like he was reaching at his normal dialogue where he puts down women and doesn't take them seriously. And this means so much too because it shows a difference between a man like him and Tulello, where Tulello sees the intelligence in someone like Serena where Fred never did. But Fred also knows this about Tulello, that he does see something in Serena and she's getting a lot of passes here. And Fred's like, you know what? I'm not going down on this ship alone. So he does what Tulello really doesn't want to hear deep down, is he darkens the image of Serena and kind of brings him back to reality. And you see Tulello's kind of like trying to make excuses for it. Kind of like people trying to make excuses for Serena in general when people debate if she's good or not or any innocence here. And he's like, anything Serena did in Gilead was under duress. She had no power subject to the state. This is just not true. And this goes back to what Moira said to Serena last episode about she was very a part of raping June all those times and did not have to do that. She didn't have a gun to her head. She wanted that to happen. And what Fred does here, he really darkens it to Tulello by calling her Mrs. Waterford, not Serena Joy. Like, yeah, even admitting he's a piece of crap and she's just like me. She's Miss Waterford. And he's like, I can assure you what Mrs. Waterford did was far beyond the laws of Gilead and of God. A+ writing by Bruce Miller, the creator, here on this scene. It just meant so many things, and you can kind of watch it again and catch even more. There was effort put into it, which I appreciate. And just let's jump now to how that story concludes here, to this moment with Serena outside with the baby. Also, I'm still not buying that she would be allowed to have this baby so much. How would Luke and Moira still be okay with that? It seems odd and wasn't explained well. But Tulello comes out here, has her arrested. Crimes against humanity, he says, sexual slavery, and the rape of June Osborne. So you're thinking this is the situation with Fred, but he's like, the charge doesn't involve what you did with Fred. You forced your driver to impregnate June, meaning Nick. And she's like, oh, Nick and Alfred had a relationship. But he's like, it's still rape. Miss Waterford, not Serena anymore. And this is huge. It's making Serena now get her just desserts, which I'm happy about. But you see even a disappointment in 2LO that he was believing in Serena in a sense. But I scratch my head a bit because I wonder if this was a little extreme in the situation, because this is just from word of mouth from Fred, who's they're just believing, who's also a villain. There hasn't been a DNA test of this baby yet, so this was, I don't know, a little bit of a stretch. But again, the writing for the politics in Canada have all been a stretch, and they got to just figure something out here. They kind of just skip steps and make something happen, but don't give a great explanation. So now we see June and the Marthas are looking at this map, and they decide they're going to walk to the airport. This is symbolic to me of this season where they've decided now to walk to resolutions in this show. So then we see now all these kids show up, Rita's there, and they go to set up all the markers in the woods for their route. So when they come back though, you see there's even more kids in 52. It's a big win for June. The light is out, but there is Commander Lawrence, and it's story time, which I don't know how to feel about that scene. I guess I like it. You know, it's a little cutesy for me, but I guess it kind of gives a moment for Lawrence and June to realize he came around. So now this is where it's weird to me. Janine shows up, but Alma's not there. I guess Alma slept through her alarm, didn't go off. And this isn't just a little thing either, because Alma's last episode was set up talking about her saving her kid. So she was a handmaid who had a big deal in this situation and getting her kid out. And we didn't see that kid, and it wasn't addressed, and they just skipped over it. So we have no idea if Alma saved her kid or not. Alma comes in at the last scene, but there's no answer to that, which is very weird. So Janine informs June that Maggie the Martha was arrested not far away, and this is going to get the eyes looking house to house, and time is ticking, so June knows they gotta go now. So June has this last moment with Commander Lawrence here, and she's like, come with us. And he's like, Eleanor would have wanted me to stay, clean up my own mess, which is definitely true. And I like that Lawrence did this. And I think June respected that. And I'm happy because it makes me feel like we get more of Lawrence next episode. And I'm happy about it because it sets up a good way for us to get Commander Lawrence more next season. Because like I say, when a character goes to Canada, that's where they go to die and getting screen time and any interesting story. And we see at the end of this, Rita is our next culprit. But it's good Lawrence will be there still because June's going to need help to get out of this when she gets back. But I felt like, again, this was a moment maybe he could have addressed his wife dying and how that happened with June something, and they just ignored it. Again, a cheat. Now, when we see them take these kids into the woods, there was a part of me that felt like this whole storyline was like my complaints with the episode, I think it was 2 of this season, where they just have these random stories where they're like, oh, like they were helping that Martha in the basement and saving her. It's just a side quest. And it's the same with the Marissa Tomei's story in the colonies in episode 2. They totally ditched the colonies, by the way, for that reason, I believe, that it was just a drag and a side quest where you're not feeling that interested or attached to it. And I think what frustrates me about this whole saving the kids, it kind of felt like a side quest from the main storyline. And it just felt like a story that's nice and all, but it's made to stretch out this show for seasons, and it helps with June's character development, which is good, but with all the storylines as a whole and of this show and where we've started and come, it still just feels like this isn't that interesting, or this isn't connected to everything, and it's okay. And they even dragged out the sequence in the woods here, and you're like, this is the finale. Like, it's frustrating because they've been setting this up since the middle of this season. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and it's just a drag. It's disappointing in the sense that you knew it was going to happen here, and it kind of just ended up cut and dry. There wasn't any big shocks or twists, and you're like, yeah, she's going to get them out of there. Great, but it was so obvious. It wasn't the most edge of your seat kind of stuff in that sense, but I mean, there were still moments of suspense. Like, I like when the guards were passing with the trucks and they're ducking down with the kids, trying not to be seen. But you see now, they see the plane. This guard shows up. I thought we'd see Nick here or something with Nick, but that was kind of disappointing. I feel like that was a moment they missed an opportunity for Nick to come in, or just anything to kind of be a little more shocking and shake things up, and it really wasn't. And this kind of also results to me in a moment where this leaves us nothing to look forward to for next season. and kind of give us an idea of where things are going. This felt like a wrap up on this side quest they made with the kids. And yeah, I think every other season of Handmaid's Tale left you wanting more and what was to come and an idea of it. And this didn't. This was just a wrap. And I feel like this was the moment when they saw the plane, they could have set something up, and they just did not. So I did get some tears here, which they did well, emotional moments with her telling Rita to get those kids out of there and that June was going to make her sacrifice. There was great music here as well to get those tears out of you. And I loved when June picked up the rock here and all her girls come to back her up and Janine comes. That was awesome. And it's a nice payoff from the setup we had with Janine and her in that truck in the flashback. They're still together, they're surviving, and they have each other's back. And this is a time they've got to use rocks for the right reasons. Think about how many times they've been forced to use rocks for the wrong reasons in Gilead. So it was powerful. And then June now does the ultimate sacrifice where she just runs to tail him away from all of them. And she gets shot in the back. But June Wick comes to play again now, and she's laying down, almost looking like she's dead, and then she turns around with the pistol and shoots him. And I love she does a smart move here with him and says, tell them it's all clear, it's okay. She's trying to make it like she's gonna let this guy go. And right when he says false alarm on his walkie to keep the other guards away, shoots him in the head. That was a nice shot. So happy she did that and didn't let him go. And I like when she's laying in the woods, she sees the plane leave. She got her closure there, mission accomplished. So now, we go to the airport where the plane arrives in Canada. Oh, and there's that chick Emily. I forgot about her. She's in the show. They threw a little red outfit on her, gave her a clipboard to do something. And that's just a huge problem I have. We had this episode with Moira and Emily in the middle of the season that was strong and setting up big stuff for them to come. It never came anything of it. And we also had this storyline built up with Emily and her kid and the wife. And everyone was like, you know, did the wife move on with someone else and that she's hiding that? We don't even know. We didn't learn anything. And that was the beginning of this season. It's like, what the hell? How do you set that up so early and not address it? I don't know. Really weird. They really abandoned Emily in this show this season, which is just strange. But you see Moira's looking on the plane, sees all the kids. Right when I know she was looking for June, tears came back. And when the girl says, this is a place I can wherever I want, woo! And then to top it off, she sees her dad and we learn her name's Rebecca. Oh my God. I was losing it. And it's also, I'm getting emotional there too, because you know June was the reason for that. That is why this was all worth it for her. And you see Luke's looking for Hannah now. No dice. But then we get another little touching moment where Rita reunites with Emily. Doesn't even recognize her, not in the Handmaid's outfit. And then that Handmaid's Tale violin kicks in just to get even more tears out of you. And then we see, though, Rita meets Luke finally. Heard all about him from June. Lets him know June did all this. She did everything. And it seems like Luke just didn't care. And honestly, I've had my complaints about the actor here. Ups and downs this season. I think he's improved for sure. But he ruined this moment for me. Why did he make this goofy face where he was like trying to angle it comedically, where he was kind of like making a face like, who is this lady? That just didn't work. And maybe the director's to blame too, but drop the ball. I'm mad at you again, Luke. Boo. So now June, next day, wakes up in the woods. Really powerful. Sees all her sisters around her. Amazing. But there's Alma, there's Brianna. I guess they missed the mission. But it was really powerful, them carrying her. I like that. Nice song, too, closing out the show. The just feeling of it worked. And you get a little Bible verse from June going back to her faith she still has and just thinking of a better day. That verse is relating to freeing out of the darkness, the promised land. Okay, so I'm really conflicted about this finale. It was a little better on second watch for me, but first watch it was incredibly disappointing. It was safe. It was just what they were setting up all season, and you got it, but it's not what everyone really cares about. No one really cares too much about getting these kids saved as much as June, unfortunately, in this show, because we're attached to storylines. And this kind of was the way to ignore them and resolving that and just delaying what we really want because they're stretching it out. I'm also very frustrated. It ended with more inconsistencies, and it just felt like, because in shows, writers write different episodes, there wasn't enough communication there. It wasn't laid out well as a whole season, and I feel like season 1 and 2 were. So that's the big downside of season 3 to me. This finale confirmed it was the worst season of Handmaid's Tale. It's still good quality, though. It's still a very good show. Doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't, compared to other TV, I'm still gonna watch it. I enjoy it. I thought this finale was a just disappointment, and it just didn't really get you excited for next season. Now, my faith in the show goes to that Margaret Atwood's sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, the book, is coming out September 10th this year. So I would suggest reading that because I'm sure that will give you an idea of where season 4 is going to go, because in my interview with Bruce Miller, you can check out, the creator of Handmaid's Tale, he mentioned to me that, yes, he does sit down with Margaret Atwood and talk about what's going to happen in that book. He knows, and they've set the show up and are considerate of that. So I'm sure they're keeping something held back. So that's an optimistic way to look at this finale. Like, okay, maybe they're just being safe because they don't want to reveal something shocking that might start off where this story goes. But I'm sure if you pick up that book, we're going to get a big detail into that. I just wish they gave us a little tease in that. And I'm not a big Nick fan, but Jesus, like, we haven't seen him since him do that salute and walking in that truck, and he goes to Chicago and it's just gone. Like, how that was so long ago. Like, that, how are you just going to go back to that next season? It's too far. Like, they're really stretching it. It's just making those common mistakes to do that. And again, that's the business angle of it, unfortunately, with shows that get popular. So, yeah, I'm going to give this finale an 8.6. There was some really strong writing in there, but a lot of cheats, like I said, with Lawrence, which pissed me off, and it was just not that interesting. So I hope the show can get interesting again. That's my biggest complaint. This season was definitely the worst one. I'm curious to hear what everyone thinks about this finale. Maybe you loved it. Maybe you hated it. I'm in the middle about it, but again, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much for watching me this season of The Handmaid's Tale. I please ask that you subscribe. I'm trying to hit 10,000. It's a big dream of mine, a goal, and I appreciate every single one of you. I really hope you guys can just stay with me and enjoy other shows and movies I'll be reviewing, interviews as well. Again, it's so fun with everyone talking with each other, and I feel like we're a giant family, just hanging out in a giant living room talking about an episode we saw, and I think it's important. I think whether actresses, actors, writers, producers, directors, editors, they're all just hardworking people. They're creative, and I think they also read these comments, they listen, they watch these videos, they go on Reddit. They'll say they don't, but they do, because if you were in their shoes and you create, you always want kind of feedback, and even if you don't, you're still gonna peak. So there's a power we have too, and it's not a power of we deserve this or anything like that. It's just a creative discussion about this art that's out there, and I think we have a voice, and it helps, and we're the purchaser too, you know, because again, if they're going to make it like a business, so are we in a sense. We want good product. We want to watch something we enjoy and is given that and keep it honest, and I think it helps to keep them honest and call out stuff that's not fair and call out stuff that's amazing, because credit's due. But again, this is still just TV, movies, and it's supposed to be fun and enjoyed and discussed. So again, everything's civil, and I appreciate The Handmaid's Tale and opportunities they've given me to interview people and support I've gotten from the show. So thank you for that. And yeah, stay with me. Praise be. Follow me at Steve Varley1 on Twitter and Instagram for more of me, and I'll see you next time.